Greetings, this is Timothy Halloran reporting from the Hard Times Trail, Asheville, North Carolina. Today is Monday, March 30th, 2020. Here for another astro update. The astrology, as we're probably learning more and more day by day, is non-different than life itself. Astrology is life, me and you are life, we are time. And we are participants and observers in this divine unfolding. Now today Mars has just entered the sign of Aquarius, leaving the sign of Capricorn, where he has been since February 16th. The last month and a half, Mars in Capricorn has been pushing through, working hard, developing strength. And a little bit of the recent energy can bring up that infamous quote from The Shining, "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy." Mars moving into Aquarius today, where Mars will remain through May 13th, is about liberating and expanding, experimenting and boundary pushing, being daring and revolutionary in terms of our own individual freedom, willpower, directions, and our individual explorations. Mars rules our instincts as well as our sex desires. So again, we're pushing, we're exploring, we are experimenting. Tomorrow, March 31st, Mars conjoins Saturn in the first degree of Aquarius, and there is a theme here of confronting the societal challenges of the times. As soon as Saturn entered Aquarius, these themes of isolation, which is certainly coming up as a collective theme at this time, really rose to the surface. So Mars conjoining Saturn in Aquarius tomorrow, we're really confronting some of these societal challenges, meeting the necessary responses or the work, the necessary responsibilities or the work to open this direction up into being more of an open road. Mars in Capricorn's been like a workout. We're getting our bodies strong. We're getting back on track. Mars conjoins Saturn. It's like we're overcoming the jet lag of adjusting to these societal expectations. For example, the social distancing. This is an adjustment that we are going through at this time. Here in the United States, we have this really interesting reflection of the states now being separated, and there is, we're not really supposed to be traveling to other states. There is this theme of isolation. Now, Aquarius has so much to do with isolation. If you've studied astrology, study the zodiac, you know where we are. And what's very interesting about Aquarius as a sign is it deals with simultaneous interconnection and isolation. And one of the best examples of Aquarius in our contemporary times is the invention of the internet. Now, for those of you who have studied the psychological effect of social media and the internet, is that the paradox of being more accessibly connected to a global network, Aquarius, the internet, we have an experience of increased isolation. And social media websites such as Facebook and Instagram, they've been proven to increase depression via this experience of isolation, even though we're paradoxically more accessibly connected. So again, Mars conjoining Saturn is we're really confronting this reality of how do we deal, how do we function, how can we be free and independent in this time, in this age, where this theme of isolation is so much up on the surface at this time. Now, there is this theme with Mars of molting, molding. Again, our bodies and our social interactions into new forms that allows us to be freely ourselves. In Aquarius, this is an experiment. It's not necessarily about knowing how we're going to be or how we're going to live in the future years. Yes, this whole year of 2020 I'm calling a year of reprioritization, a year of adjustment. There's certainly a theme of uncertainty. We'll make it through to the other end through this dynamic of experimentation, exploring the unknown. Aquarius is the future. The future is unknown. It's not what we've experienced in the past. And therefore, when we're breaking in the new, it can be downright weird. It's incongruent, what we are living now, to what we have experienced in the past. And just like breaking in a new pair of pants or a new pair of shoes, there's this experimental trying on, taste testing, developing what works. And this is how we eventually break in that new pair of shoes or pants, and we do adjust. We do get more comfortable. We do get used to what the future is bringing into the present. So we're exploring these new ways of anchoring our desires and who we are as an individual, Mars, into groups, into movements, into networks, associations that reflect our own intentions and directions throughout life. And that in and of itself is where there's going to be so much experimentation now through summertime. We'll talk about Venus entering Gemini this Friday, April 3rd, where she will remain through the start of August due to an approaching Venus retrograde entirely in the sign of Gemini. So connection, technology, networking, who and how we're connecting with others. That's a theme very much coming up this month, as we'll talk about the forthcoming full moon in Libra, and this is going to continue through the months to come. With this Mars-Saturn, we are overcoming the gigantic and the worldly obstacles through the brilliance of Aquarius and the integrity of Mars. So to discover new ways of being free while simultaneously having a grip, having control, having 2 feet on the ground, it practically works. We're discovering these new ways, just as how Saturn and Aquarius will put pressure on the scientific communities to discover new medicines, and coming up in the years to come, also new technologies to interconnect our world in ever-increasing ways. So this is practical, grounded work that's taking place in experimental, never before been seen or done, highly revolutionary ways. And again, 2020s, the roaring 2020s, this is going to be the most revolutionary, innovative, groundbreaking decade of our entire lives. Again, since the beginning of this year, I've called 2020 a mini dark age. But this dark age, which can be, as we'll talk about, we're seeing what doesn't work. We're seeing the systemic oppression. We're seeing the failure. We're seeing the deception. And that's dark, that's heavy. This is like a reflection of the dark ages. Oh, we thought we were so much further beyond this, and it turns out we're still recycling a lot of this. My prior, disclaimer on coronavirus, if you haven't seen that, I encourage you to check it out. That was my personal way of addressing some of these dark age beliefs that are being recirculated even close at home, in astrological communities, new age communities, spiritual communities. We have to address these dynamics in a way that can be severely detrimental or limiting or oppressive in our lives and how we are showing up in the lives of others. So all of this heaviness, this darkness, is like loading a spring. And this spring is going to lift off. This is the French Revolution. This is so many historical revolutions happens in this way. The gravity, the intensity is Saturn, where we see Jupiter and Pluto conjoining these next couple weeks in Saturn's sign of Capricorn, and Saturn will return to Capricorn later on this year. Very, very Saturn, Capricorn heavy, forced to look at limitation, forced to look at the societal constructs and buy-ins and how it limits us. And then Aquarius, the sign which follows Saturn's sign of Capricorn. Aquarius, ruled by Uranus, the divine revolutionary, the divine rule breaker and pioneer, is the loaded spring which lifts off. Jeffrey Wolf Green, the founder of evolutionary astrology, gave the analogy that this transition from Capricorn to Aquarius, Saturn to Uranus, is like a grenade in a steel box. And even though it's a steel box, the grenade wins. So even the reflections of, early 20th century, there was the Spanish flu. Very, very similar pandemic to what we're seeing. Half a century ago, Pluto was on his own nodes in the sign of Cancer during a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. 1 century later, Pluto is back on his own nodes in the sign of Capricorn, being joined with Jupiter during the spread of this pandemic. The good news is that this loaded spring can again lead to the necessary breakthroughs that can catalyze the highly revolutionary years to come. But again, it's going to be an exciting ride while Saturn's going through Aquarius, Uranus's sign, and squaring Uranus in a third quarter, highly revolutionary, innovative, as well as societally breaking down the conditions, breaking down the steel box through the years, plural, to come. Now let's get back to Venus. Venus moves into Gemini again this Friday, April 3rd. Is going to station retrograde at 21 degrees of Gemini, May 13th, and go all the way back to 5 degrees Gemini at the end of June before pushing forward and leaving Gemini August 7th. So you want to check out the first 25 degrees of Gemini, any planets there, any planets in air signs, any planets in the mutable signs will be very much influenced and aspected by this Venus retrograde as it affects you in highly individual ways in your unique life, reflected in these collective transits as they affect your personal birth chart. So again, Venus in Gemini is going to be this experiment. Venus retrograde is where we are looking at, hey, what do we really value? What do we want to share? It's about connecting and networking and sharing what we love, what we value, so to be able to have these networks that reflect a meeting of like minds. And so it's no coincidence. We've got the isolation as a major theme affecting so many people around the globe. Now people are being forced to look at technology, Aquarius, Gemini, the most technologically associated signs. And there is an opportunity for us to form new networks, new groups. We can improve our way of relating to others. But this is again an experiment. While Venus is retrograde, and this will be largely going on May to August time, this is an experiment of inquiring within ourselves. What do we really love? How do we want to share what we love? What do we really value? What hobbies, what talents have we put on a back burner? And how can we integrate this, our true heart, our true love, into our relationships? How can we share and connect with others of like minds? And that's going to be bringing us into ourselves. There's an inner exploration, like, hey, am I really doing what I love? Or am I just showing up to meet others in what they love and what they value? Is this kind of like a subconscious expectation, like, oh, this is how I am, and this is what I love, and this is what I'm supposed to do? Or have I just been kind of following the rhythms and the movements, and this is, what people do, and this is how we connect? We go to bars, we go to restaurants. Oh, can't do that anymore. What do we do now? I mean, what do we really like? What do we want to share? I love to give this question. What do you want to bring to school for show and tell? That's Venus retrograde, particularly in the sign of Gemini. You want to bring something different to show and tell tomorrow? That's okay. Bring something different. A part of this whole exploration and connections, networks, relationships beginning right now as Venus enters Gemini as we have a full moon in Libra coming up next Tuesday, there really is this exploration of how can we share and connect with what we value with others, and if there is no possibility to have every single need and value and desire met by one person or one particular group or one particular circle, this is a period, this is a year that's really going to open up this circle. And a part of this Gemini understanding is, you almost can't have every single thing checked off in just one person, place, group, circle. And so this Gemini magic is, you can have your different interests met. Gemini's diversity. It's like I'll start my astrological full moon circle and we'll talk about the astrology. And, I have an interest in online coding. And so I'm joining like an online coding, club. And I haven't painted in a while. And there's a local community that's painting. So this wisdom of Gemini is that we can wear different hats for different people in different places. We can wear different masks and have different facets of our own personality, different core needs met in different places by different people. And in no way, shape, or form should we feel bad or wrong or guilty. This is natural. We all need more than one person, more than one group, more than one thing to constantly obsess with, because that's really unhealthy. We lose the full spectrum of our consciousness, who we are, how we're interacting and sharing with others in a way that could really satiate the fullness of ourselves. And when we look at an astrological birth chart, we get the sense that every human being somewhat has multiple personality disorder. And we've all got these different players and these different facets of who we are, and they sometimes create a tension and push and pull us in different directions. And that's going to be some of this continued exploration and experimentation taking us forward that can really again unfold into a rich, beneficial, satiating our needs for emotional connection and excitement and openness. And Gemini, being the eternal student, simply wants to learn more and more, experiment more and more, have more opportunities, more possibilities to discover what is life and how can we look at life differently and how can we approach relationship and energy exchange. All this includes money, by the way. How are we going to deal with money in the future? Repeat everything I just said. Experimentation, different hats, different masks, and different places, because it's not just about earning money to survive. It's about recognizing who we are, so that way we're sharing our gifts, Venus, with others in a way that's not self-sacrificing. That brings us straight to our full moon in Libra, conjoined asteroid Juno, the partnership asteroid, in the sign of Libra, to do so much with relationships, collaboration, showing and telling. There's very much a dynamic between self and other, Aries, Libra, being illuminated by this full moon. This full moon in Libra, ruled by Venus, who is again in the sign of Gemini, is really illuminating our own value systems. What we love, what we desire to share with others. Again, what do you want to bring for show and tell? Put into a creative tension. Yes, this full moon is disseminating square to Jupiter-Pluto, quincunx to Mercury in Pisces, sesquiquadrate to Venus in Gemini. So there certainly is a creative tension here. Answers not being served on a silver platter, but rather our own willingness to explore can help us form these new ways of relating, connecting, and sharing in our quickly changing world. How we're adjusting to this quickly changing world. The extra information, the revelation, the disclosure that will be coming up these weeks with Jupiter conjoining Pluto. We are adjusting this whole year, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, global reprioritization. So again, there's this experimentation. Try it out, put it on, see how it fits. If there's any hobbies that have been on the back burner, we discover the treasure, the hidden blessings, the gems in these things through this experimentation. But the quincunx to Mercury and Pisces, the creative challenge is in honoring how we are communicating our be-all, end-all dreams and goals with the world. Reprioritization. We go back and forth between our actual intentions as they take place in reality. Jupiter, Pluto, what's actually going on, the true. And then going back into our imagination, back into our dreams, our goals, how the future could be, how our relationships could be, and then seesaw back into reality. If we make this a conscious reverberation, we can form bridges between what is reality, what are our dreams and goals, and how can we make this practically work. A key here is to just take it one little baby step at a time. Nobody is born and hits the ground running. Nobody understands what's going on totally right now. This is a time of being very easy, very flexible, very forgiving of ourselves. One little baby step after the next. That sesquiquadrate to Venus, who is joining asteroid Vesta in the sign of Gemini, is really, again, this experimentation of how is our values and goals reflected in the groups, in the associations that we already find ourselves in. What do we need to do in ourselves to refine our capability in the groups, in the movements that we're already participating in, to bring the best of our gifts to these groups in a productive way? And again, this is a seesaw. How's the group fitting our goals? How are we fitting the group's goals? And it's not just how we are communicating our values, our dreams, our goals, our agendas. It's not just what we're saying, it's how we're saying it. Gemini is a big exploration of communication, not just what but how. Is it through email? Is it through text? Is it through word? Is it through online video? This matters in terms of how we're connecting with the group, how well the group is managing, and how well we're able to articulate our goals to the group. Is this honoring our heart and our individual truth? Or are we suppressing our heart and our individual truth to meet the expectations of the others or to fit the perfect expectation? The shadow of Libra is too much politeness. Oh, it's all fine. Oh, it's all wonderful. Oh, yeah, I'm totally good. Oh, yeah, I'm having a wonderful day. And to the point where we just disassociate from reality, or we suppress our darkness. And then weird things happen, as we are witnessing, when we suppress our darkness, when we deny and avoid our shadow, which people can do for years and decades. That shadow becomes like a subpersonality that can almost possess us. And then we can continue to deny and avoid our own shadows and call that demonic possession or blame other people. No, it's our own unconsciousness that has been denied and suppressed for so long, we now see it as separate from ourselves. And so this is a time, Jupiter conjunct Pluto, of confronting, of getting down to business with the true. And as Jupiter is approaching Pluto, Saturday, April 4th is the first conjunction. Then there will be a retrograde pass at the end of June. That retrograde Jupiter conjoin Pluto is when things tend to really get revealed. Oh, wow, there's even more? Oh, wow, that was going on behind the scenes? And then there's a final completing pass mid-November of this year. So this Jupiter-Pluto, it's going on all 2020. But we're in the thick of it now, start of April. Jupiter-Pluto exposes reality. And it gets deeper and deeper. And there's layer after layer, and there's level after level. Reality with a capital R. Pluto is, in so many respects, our fate. And our fate is not simply determined by invisible strings or the gods or just simplified, cause and effect and No, it's actually quite real what determines our fate, and I'll make it incredibly practical for you. Our fate is largely determined by our unconscious desires, our unconscious insecurities, our unconscious fears, our unconscious ulterior motives. Why might these be the real determining factors of our fate? If you have an unconscious insecurity, it drives your life. If you have a phobia of something, you avoid what you're afraid of. And if you don't heal that phobia, and there's no right or wrong way or right or wrong pace to heal, but healing is important because this is how we gain control over our lives. And when we don't, our lives are nearly fated. Our unconscious fears, our unconscious desires spearhead, lead, create our reality in so many respects, not in a ungrounded, disassociated fairy tale, you create your own reality, which we hear and see so much of out there in the world and the New Age movement in a way that's very deceptive, very crippling to people. Because there's an actual way to create your reality, and it's by knowing Pluto. You've got to go into your shadow. You've got to explore your deepest fears as well as your deepest desires, which may sometimes be strange or mysterious, like people who have sexual fetishes, for example. It's like, why are we so attracted to this thing? It looks so surreal, looks so outlandish. Why? Well, there are reasons why. Nobody has these magnetic attractions or repulsions for no good reason. Where we experience those magnetic attractions or repulsions is always an opportunity for us to discover these bottom line realities in our soul. These are oftentimes at the roots of our whole lifetime. And when we have a means to understand all of this, if you want to understand Pluto, I am going to recommend the Pluto man, the founder of evolutionary astrology, Jeffrey Wolf Green. He wrote the book on Pluto. He wrote Pluto 2, which is entirely about relationships. Folks, with Jupiter conjunct Pluto, there's never been a more opportune time to understand the bottom of the barrel reality, which I have seen no other human being on the planet do so articulately better than Jeffrey Wolf Green. Jeffrey Wolf Green's evolutionary astrology is few and far between. This is me, this is what I use, but the amount of EA astrologers using Jeffrey Green's system is honestly quite rare out here on YouTube, even in terms of where you can get an education that is the core Jeffrey Green evolutionary astrology. It's not available just everywhere. It's usually changed or rewritten or altered or made into something else. And so check out Pluto 1 and 2. You can also go to the School of Evolutionaryastrology.com to go straight to the core of Jeffrey Green's material. If you would be interested in applying to a school yourself, you can email me for suggestions. Now, one of the most important secrets to all healing and all magic is that we transform reality after we accept reality for what it is. You are born into a reality. We're all being exposed, Jupiter-Pluto, to a reality right now on a collective level that we must accept first. The denial, the suppression, the avoidance, which we see so common out there at this time. Oh, everything's fine. Oh, everything's a gift. I mean, we sugarcoat things, even the coronavirus. Oh, sugarcoat it. It's a wonderful gift for humanity. Yes, you can reframe. There is such a divine process called reframing, which is not sugarcoating. It's accepting the reality for what it is. This is a deadly virus. This is a pandemic affecting millions of people. So no, we can't pretend that it's a birthday party or a birthday cake. But when we accept it for what it is first, this is a deadly virus, this is a pandemic, then you can reframe it. but it's a catalyst of evolution. It's cataclysmic evolution. It's intense and it's painful, but this death is catalyzing a rebirth, and we can harness the passion, the flame, the intensity of these times and use it. That's what a reframe is. You take what is dark, you take what is intense, you take what is shadowy, and you use it. I'll give you a very important example of this that is too often bypassed and ignored in the world by and large. Reframing negative emotions. Negative emotions are not a problem. Your depression, your anger, your frustration is wonderful. It's about using these emotions in a healthy, productive, constructive way, which there are unlimited ways of doing. Folks, we should be depressed, we should be angry, we should be frustrated if we're in tune with the real world. That's Pluto. Highly Pluto Scorpio people are the folks that tend to wear that intensity more on their faces, and these are the folks that also get scapegoated by the rest of the superficial, bypassing, avoiding, and denying world. There's nothing wrong with the intensity of confronting reality for which it is. But even when I mention the fact that there's very few evolutionary astrologers that actually honor Jeffrey Green, his system, and his teachings, it's because Jeffrey Green is an intense dude. His teachings were very bottom of the barrel, and it's not for everybody. It's for the few and far between that can actually get their feet down into reality. And this is a time where we're seeing how this is not something that everybody can do. And it's not for us to shame, put down. We'll teach them a lesson for those people that can deny and avoid reality. It is about accepting that this is a fact, that there are so many people so afraid, so wounded, they cannot confront their own fears or their own wounds, maybe in this lifetime. And this is something that we all have to learn to accept through our own development. And that forms relationships that are healthy. We don't beat ourselves up because a relationship isn't working or able to meet in that deeper, more intimate way. We recognize, you know what? This is not a meeting of like minds. And so we have to honor our depth, our passion, our reality, our feelings. And that creates a meeting point, a foundation through which to begin meeting others on a similar wavelength to ourselves. And that sometimes calls us to take a stand or to lead or to initiate. If the others aren't out there, we are separate and we are individual, and that's a push to do what is separate to us. And in leading, initiating, separating, that's how we will find the others. They will come out of the woodwork through our courage and our confidence to go to the beat of our own drum, not sacrifice our truth or our values, but embody them in a way that can be shared, that can be disseminated with others. That's our full moon. Take it to show and tell. Experiment with this new meeting point. And in ourselves, as Jupiter is conjoining Pluto, and we are accepting this deeper reality, how we respond to darkness, how we respond to trauma is reality. Here is a hard truth. We are all shaped by the darkness and the trauma in our life. And when we don't avoid that fact, when we accept that every human being has formed coping mechanisms in order to function and live, just by understanding this is a coping mechanism, and it formed in this way, and it formed from this past trauma, and it formed from this darkness. We learn about ourselves and we gain control. We're no longer a marionette pushed and pulled by various strings, the hidden fears, the hidden past traumas. We become empowered, we heal, and we grow into potential exponentially vaster than what we've known or believed was possible in the past by doing the shadow work, by being the courageous soul, willing to explore our reality and our depth, even when things get fringy, even when things get challenging. This is true enlightenment. This is true transcendence. And so I have to say, I am wishing you all the best. And this is a powerful time. This is a time that is creating us into being these incredibly inspiring souls in the future. That's the high octave of Pluto. When we do our shadow work, when we become aware of these various push and pulls, magnets in our consciousness, we become powerful catalysts of change in the world. And when we show up as ourselves, we can inspire the world and others by being in tune with our soul's power. Folks, if you're attracted to me and what I say, check out Jeffrey Wolf Green's Evolutionary Astrology. I am available online. I offer readings where we can explore the deep, the dark, in a healing, revolutionary, transformative way. And it is such an honor for me to be able to share these words. It is an honor for me to have come in contact with this wisdom. And it is a blessing to have the opportunity to share some of these ideas with like minds. So thank you very much. On my Patreon community, we have a growing community of like minds ourselves. You can pay any dollar amount a month and join our online chat room where we are continuing the showing and telling, and that is a beautiful honor and a beautiful thing to witness. We get to see these collaborations form meaningful relationships. Coming up, do take care.